Hi everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with Spellbinders and another new collection. And this one is called the Susan's Holiday Flora. She does absolutely beautiful works with dies. Her name is Susan Tierney Cockburn, and she has a whole collection. These are just two of the sets. This set here is the Poinsettia. I'm looking back to make sure that I say this correct. Yep, this is the Poinsettia. And then this one here is called the Winterberry and Mistletoe. I also have one of her stamp sets. And this is called, and that's a bad color. Wow, so sorry. Let's get another color for you. Okay, how about this one? Oh, that's so much better. This is called the Holiday Quotes, and I am very much drawn to her quotes. I have another one for the autumn, and I just love them. But we have our general Happy Holidays, Joy, Hope, Peace, Merry Christmas, May Peace be your gift at Christmas, Happy New Year, may the holiday spirit find a home in your heart. How lovely is the silence of growing things. And that's by Evan Dickin. Deep within the winter forest, among the snowdrift wide, you can find a magic place where all the fairies hide. And then there are many gifts under the Christmas tree, but the best one is the gift of your friendship. So this does hit many areas, and it does coincide with the holidays. So we will be using these sentiments for our two cards that we're going to make. So again, let's real quick go over the dies. So again, this is the Poinsettia set, and what's really nice is she's identified on the dies the number of times you have to die cut. So like this one, it says 2 times, and it's sitting right there at the tip. This one here says 1 time. Do not have any markings here, but on this one here for the center of the Poinsettia, sorry about that glare, wow, that's amazing, that says 1 time as well. Now for these here, we don't have any markings, but you can see the mistletoe branch, some mistletoes here, some winterberry leaves, more mistletoes here. So this is like a good arrangement to mix and match. For the two cards, they are going to, of course, these are going to be the focal point. I'm going to pull in a little bit of mixed media for the backgrounds. These are going to be 7 by 7 cards because I can just see these exploding all the way through. So we're going to make the backgrounds first so that they can sit back and dry. I'm going to actually be using acrylic paints for that to create somewhat of almost like an art journal background that you've seen me do before. Then we're going to build our florals, and Susan has great videos to show as well, and if I can, I will link to them as well. I'll be using her tips and tricks to put these together because they are just absolutely gorgeous. What I'm also going to show you in this video is she has what is called a Garden Ultimate Toolkit. Now it's very similar, of course, to the Spellbinders Tool-in-One, but I'll real quick show you the components that are in here that come in this kit. And then we will get started. Again, I'll be starting with the background first. Then I'll be getting into the florals. And then we will build our cards. Okay, so here we go. So in this set, of course, you get the pouch. And it's absolutely cute. Her emblem is right there. You get a pair of curved tweezers. Now, these are regular tweezers, okay, which means when you let them go, they will separate. So you do want to make sure that you're keeping it clamped if you're picking anything up with these. And then they have a great protector. She has a pair of the reversible tweezers, and what that means is when you let it go, they close, and when you pinch, they're open, and they're really nice and strong. I am a fan of these tweezers for that elongated point that these tweezers come to, and then of course it has the protector for them as well. A pair of very fine detailed scissors, and again a protector that goes with them. I mean, these come to a very super fine point. I do apologize, my finger being yellow there, don't ask. Okay, but a great super fine point and a nice protector there. You get your foam block to break those fibers. You also get a small silicone mat for glues, if you should use any drops, paints, and so forth. And then you have this. So this is like a really thick piece of chipboard. This is the stem creator, and I'll be showing that. At least that's what I'm calling it. It's called, I believe it's called the stem creator. So that's how you can put your vines in place when it comes to your leaves. And I'm just making sure here. Yes, this is called the leaf pad. All right. This here is where you make the curvatures in your leaves, and this is your foam mat. You also get one of Spellbinders tool-in-one in this kit as well. And you get all of these wonderful attachments. So now each one does serve a purpose when it comes to this. So of course these here, and if you've seen any of my previous videos before, you've seen me use something like this. These create the curves in your papers. So by taking a piece of paper and just running along it, you're breaking those fibers and it puts a curve into that paper. And you have 3 different sizes, and it depends upon the piece that you are working with. You then also get some leaf shapers when it comes to this. And again, can just by pulling down. And then you also have this tool here. It looks pointy. It is pointy, but it's not going to pierce. This is how you can dig in and create those vines in your leaves. All right, so let's get started. This is going to be a rather long but wonderfully detailed video. Things will be sped up. But again, we're going to work on our backgrounds first, set those aside, get our sentiments on those. Then we're going to focus on the flowers. We are going to start with white cardstock and use our distress inks to give them color and life. And then we are going to put it all together. So let's get started. Okay, let's start with our backdrops. Now, just a heads up, you can see this video is long. It is sped up. I am showing you as many of the techniques that I use to create these beautiful flowers as I can. The cardstock that I've pulled out, these are 7x7 cards that I'm going to be making. This panel here is cut to be 6.5 by 6.5. It is a piece of Bristol cardstock. I have also sprayed the front and the back with water so that it will stay flat on my glass mat. I do not have to tape it down. I am using Arteza paints on the bottom, a white and a pink. And I'm also using a golden titanium, or no, buff white, to give this brown pinky background. You can see how flat that stayed. And that also helps by spraying both sides to let up to when it dries to stay flat as well. Again, nothing's perfect, but it does help. For this panel, I'm adding more pink. And again, it's streaky. I'm going top to bottom. I want those streaks that come in. The last color that I will put in is the titanium or the buff color by Golden. Now again, I'm also going to apologize. My voice is very scratchy. I've literally been down for about a week with a cold. Nothing more, just a cold. And it was confirmed. So I do apologize for my voice. I waited as long as I could to do this video. So I have all of my pieces die cut that I'm going to be using. Okay, here's a first clue. Use gloves. Now, I don't mind, but boy, I didn't think it was going to get this bad. So, I think my fingers stayed these colors forever. And the colors that I'm using are distress inks. I am not using my oxides. I like the way the distress inks work. I'm using Shabby Shutters, Mowed Lawn, Rustic Wilderness, Peeled Paint, and Forest Moss when it comes to the greens. For these are the Mistletoe Leaves. I am using Shabby Shutters and I believe Mowed Lawn. So again, I am just getting this color down and I am just flipping these both sides into this ink. I am not looking for perfection. I am not looking for solid coverage. I just want these to be scattered and look distressed because I love the way the distress inks dry, especially if there's a puddle. I do like that look. Next up, the Poinsettias. Now, remember, a poinsettia, actually, and I found this out a couple years ago, poinsettia is not a flower. It's actually the leaves of the flower. And what I also found out back then is where they come from. I believe this plant is from Mexico, if I'm not mistaken. But again, the colored part is not a flower. It's actually the leaves. The leaves turn into these beautiful colors when the conditions are correct. So you can see for the poinsettia, I am using Forest Moss as that main color. I am loving this glass mat for this reason. I mean, it's easy to clean. I can keep moving. I don't have to kill myself. I'm loving it. And there's no reflection. That's what I love most about it. You can hardly see the reflection. Okay, moving on. So now we've taken care of the base of the poinsettias. Now we're going to get into the colors. Water, ink, it's just being moved all over the place. My fingers are getting darker as we go. God, I shouldn't laugh. I'm so sorry. I had a ball doing this. For the poinsettias, I'm using Worn Lipstick, Barn Door, Fired Brick, and Aged Mahogany. Again, each level is going to have that different shade. And I am just setting them up on boards. I have those boards where I taped down my watercolor panels as I'm working with it. And I'm just setting them on there and letting them dry. I did do this the day before I did the rest of the video because I really wanted to make sure they were dry. Look, now I come in. As I use the vintage photo around the edges, now I come in with a glove. Yeah, it's awesome to be creative, right? Just say. Yeah, I'm a little backwards. So I am coming in with the vintage photo. I want to go around those edges. I am loving the looks of these by just letting them dry on their own. I am coming in not only with a vintage photo, I'm going to use a makeup sponge because if you don't have a blending tool, best alternative in the world, put it in a bulldog clip. And I'm adding the darker shade to the inside. Now, that could be either Fired Brick or Aged Mahogany. It was dependent upon what these colors looked like on the cardstock after they dried. All right, because you want to have those differences. Because again, a poinsettia is not solid. It's got these different if you look at it really closely, it's just got this, it looks distressed, looks absolutely beautiful, but it does look distressed the way that it is. I did a lot of the individual ones as well, because if any of you have seen my videos before and dealing with collaging, I love to just keep adding and sticking things in to give it more dimension, more volume when it comes to that. Again, we're going to go around the outside and we're going to go into the inside. So these are the holly leaves. So again, used greens for those, mowed lawn mainly. Now I'm going to come into the edges of those with rustic wilderness. Nope, not the vintage photo, but rustic wilderness, just to go to give it that variance of difference. I am not looking for perfection here. Again, I'm using a piece of foam here. I think it's called cut and dry, and I'm taking it from the center and dragging it out. I want the tips just a little bit lighter than the rest of those leaves. Okay. Now, I did not show this, but I was watching a video by the creator of these dies, Susan Tierney, and she is a phenomenal. I learned so much from her. These are the techniques that she showed, and wow, they do have an impact. But one of the things that she showed when it came to the holly leaves, and she's right, holly leaves are very shiny. Use your glossy accents. I never knew and never thought that you could paint with your glossy accents. Put a little bit down, make sure you have your brush rinsed out after you do it, get your glossy accents on a scrap piece of cardstock and paint these leaves for the hollies. It is absolutely stunning. I'm just saying. So I will link to her videos below, and if otherwise you can search for her, Spellbinders, Susan Tierney. She is, and I hope I pronounce her last name correctly. If I'm wrong, I do apologize. She is phenomenal with her creations and what she comes up with. So many 3Ds. You can see I'm using her tools, which again are specifically made when it comes to her products in mind. So you have everything that you need. Here you can see I'm going in with that glossy accents. I'm using those tweezers to bend, but you have that little pad, and with the curved tool, I'm creating those lines for the stems. I'm bending them, and the realism that comes to it as you do that is amazing. For these holly leaves, now while they were drying, I have added some stickles to the end of these. Okay, so again, there was a lot of work that I did before. This was a process. So all of the inking, 24 hours to dry. Then once I knew they were dry, I added my Nuvo drops, my stickle drops, let those dry for 24 hours. Then I started and was able to come in with these accents. So when it comes to these mistletoe leaves, I'm using mowed lawn, again, from the centers. I want the difference of those colors to come in and to show how they look and to get those color differences, because that helps when it comes to all of this. Here are the panels that we have. All right, I used gold cardstock in the background. All right, and cut out the centers, of course, to create those frames, and then put my panels on top once they were dry. So here is, I'm using that pad and that curved piece, and I'm creating the line, the vine line, the stem lines, those little hair lines, cutting those or creating those along that. I'm going to do that to each of these petals, similar to the holly. Went right down the edge. Now with the holly, I also came off and created the side marks as well. Here, I'm just going down the center for the holly leaves. And now I'm just going to bend them in half right along that line. What that mat is doing and that tool, it's creating a score line. And again, you don't want to have the point facing down into the cardstock. Make sure it's curved up, and then you're just getting that impression. And I'm going to continue to bend all of these so that I can get that shape. And that's all I'm doing to these, is just bending these in half. The kit, this toolkit does, it comes with everything that you need. The different stylists, the different tools, the different shaping tools, and so forth. So now for the poinsettias. Now I'm only going to show a few, okay, because this took a while. I'm coming in, I'm creating that straight line using this mat, and now I'm coming in on the edges. And again, it doesn't take a lot of pressure. All right, this is not a piece of foam. This is it's like a thick, soft chipboard. I know I just went back on myself there, but that is exactly what this is. I'm going to come in with my tweezers and I'm just going to bend right up around them, creating that fold. And the point on these tweezers, these are the Spellbinders reverse tweezers. It is absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to flip it over, pull in the foam pad, and use the round stylus set up on the other side. And on the back, I'm going to curl back those points. And that is what that poinsettia and how that gets shaped up. It is absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to show now just the individual ones. Again, it's the same process. You score the straight line on the front and the back. You then put your accenting points, fold up, turn it over, and curl it. And that is how that works. Okay, so now that we have all of our pieces created, now even more fun comes in, because now we're going to build these beautiful focal points. So I grabbed the pink background, the more pink, and that sentiment is "May peace be your gift at Christmas." And we are going to create the what I'm referring to as the mistletoe and holly cluster. Okay, so again, I added drops, some gold glitter drops on those edges there. And we are just going to place these. So I'm placing them off to the side because this is going to be a bunch. So when you see mistletoe and when it hangs, you know, it's usually just a sprig. And that's what I was going for here. So once they are placed, we are then going to dip them in the glue. Now, this glue is something that I saw when I was watching Susan's videos, something that she was using, and she recommended it because of the consistency of this glue. It is extremely thick. She's right. It's a wonderful glue. And what I really like about it is when you're doing a project like this, and this is the only time that I would use this glue, it holds the shape. So as you keep putting items in, like see how those holly leaves are sticking up. They stay stuck up. Oh, that's a horrible phrase there. But they do. They keep their shape. They don't, it doesn't flatten down. It's almost like it solidifies as that glop, the way that it is, which is wonderful. I'm adding these beaded accents. So after these were die cut, I added gold Nuvo drops and red stickles and gold stickles to these and let these dry. And now I'm just adding these onto the inside and throughout this bouquet. And again, I'm cutting them. I mean, because you can trim them down to whatever size you're looking for. But again, just dipping into that glue there so that I can use my tweezers just to push that down in there. Again, I want to make this as full as possible. So again, I'm one where I will tear pieces to just make it even fuller. You don't necessarily have to have, you know, the same. And just by putting them on different angles, you can take a shape that's the same image and you can get a different look from it. I'm going to add some twine to the top of this because again, I want it to look like that this was all tied together. So I am going to create my bow and I'm going to even that out so that it's proportionate to the image that I'm attaching it to. Going to cut that final loop there because we doubled it up, dipping it into that glue. And then just holding that there for a moment. And that bow is not, trust me, it ain't going anywhere. Okay. On to the other panel. So this one, of course, did take a little bit longer because there's more going on. So we're just going to build the poinsettias up. Now, one of the things that I do like to do when it comes to something like this, and even when I collage, so this is a form of collage as you're putting your piece together, your artwork, all right, and you're placing your items here. I play around with the placement. So I knew I wanted these 3 main ones to sit around the sentiment. And the sentiment is gorgeous. And it just simply says, there are many gifts under the Christmas tree, but the best one is the gift of your friendship. I love her sentiments. The sentiment set is also by Susan as well. Her collection is absolutely gorgeous. And I will make sure that it is linked down below for you to see. So again, I got my glue set. I know I want these 3 set here so that they are around that sentiment. You start out with the green, okay? Because again, the leaves start out green, and then when the conditions are right, that's when the flowers turn their colors. Those leaves change colors and go into either the white, the pink, or the red that we are used to seeing. Excuse me, so sorry. So I'm getting one of my stylus, and I'm getting the larger one out because one of the things that I want to make sure is that I push down into the center of these clusters. Again, it's going to give more dimension as I put down, and then I'm going to use the other side, my tweezers, to push these down as well. So everything just really fits. Now this glue's got a fast grab to it, even though it's really thick, which is what I like. When it dries clear. I'm looking at this piece and I am not seeing any glue going crazy here coming out or anything like that. What I am feeling, and again, I am pushing on these flowers, it really holds their shape. I mean, they are stuck up there. I keep saying stuck up. I gotta stop that. It's just amazing how these flowers are just holding their shape. But this has a lot of dimension. You are looking at a 7x7 card. And this is at minimum an inch thick. So again, look at your postage. Do I think that this would be fine going through the mail? Absolutely. If you wanted to put this through the mail, you could add some tissue in between the flowers themselves so that you have that piece, you know, so that it doesn't completely, or, you know, build up some chipboard in those open spaces. So you can see I'm building up the 3 main poinsettias. Now you could stop here. These 3 are absolutely gorgeous. Now the center, stamens, I think is what they're called. Again, I'm just pushing down onto the center. Again, I added Nouveau drops to those. Again, I learned so much from her videos and what the potential and the realism that you get from her die cuts. It's amazing. And it's, again, I enjoy this type of work. I find it relaxing. It's like a puzzle because it's layers. It's all these differences. So by adding those Nouveau was great. You know, you've got this these tips that are sparkly when it comes to those centers. You could use just white. You could use just yellow. Any color that you would want, you could definitely use. She's got 2 layers of those. So you want to make sure that you put in your 2 layers, and as you keep building it, it comes up further and further. The last one you're going to roll. I'm just going to use my tweezers to roll it up onto itself. And then for that last part, I'm going to put just a little bit of glue along that straight edge. And then once it's rolled up, I'm going to push down on my fingers with that, dip it into the glue, and then that just sits right into the center. It gives you a full center to your poinsettia, which is phenomenal. You can see the differences in the colors. And again, that's how those leaves look when it comes to a poinsettia. Doesn't mean you cannot get the same effect using your watercolors, your alcohol markers. I don't know if anyone would want to use their colored pencils for this. I think that would take an extremely long time. But I mean, you can get the same results. As I continued to build this, and while I loved those 3 poinsettias there, we all know that I'm going to connect them. So there's going to be more poinsettias that come in. They're going to sit in the back. And again, I don't think I ever gave the name of this glue. It's by Beacon. Imagine that. Maker of Fabri-Tac or 3-in-1. Hello. It is called Kid's Choice. And it comes in a tube. I'm now adding the individual pieces, again, to make these fuller, to expand them. That's where this glue shines the most, because I can have this huge glob sitting there and I can just push that right in and it grabs a hold of it. And that is what's helped keeping the flowers keep their shape, because of the thickness of this glue and the way that it dries. So it doesn't flatten out. Could you use your Bearly Arts? Could you use your art glitter glue? Could you use your tacky glues? Yes, you absolutely certainly can. I'm just saying why I'm using this, what the benefit is, but continue to use what you have. I'm taking the smaller ones, not starting with the larger, the base. I'm taking the smaller levels or layers and making smaller poinsettias as if they're to the back. Again, when you look down onto a poinsettia plant, and I haven't been able to have one in my house, only because I have a cat and they're not good for cats. They're poisonous actually, and trust me, my cat gets into everything. Oh, he's precious. I love him. The only thing he doesn't do is jump on my table, which I find amazing. When you look down, you've got small ones over here. You've got large ones that are closer to you. That's kind of what I'm trying to create here as you're looking down onto these. I'm cutting some of the leaves in half, again, for those smaller ones, but I want the image of those to come through as well. I didn't realize that one kind of covered up the sentiment, and trust me, it's not going anywhere right now. So can't change that. Again, just slowly filling in what I've got going on there, because I want them to connect. I want them to come together. I also wanted to make sure that I used up all of the pieces that I created, because I just think that they came out great. And again, it was just a simple variation on ink smushing. Wear a glove. Just wear a glove. Excuse me, I sneezed. I'm so sorry. I didn't have time to stop it. Okay, continuing on. Now, you could also, when it comes to your ink smushing, by all means, you could take that huge panel and just do it that way and then just place your dies on it as well. I think I got a better result by doing the pieces because it was specific when it came to that. The last poinsettia that I'm adding is the one down on the bottom, so it looks like it's kind of starting up. Excuse me. Starting up from that bottom right-hand corner and coming up and creating this swirl, which I'm really enjoying. I have a half of a poinsettia being built off to the side here. Again, looking like as if it's coming out and it's setting up onto the bouquet. I also did that because that gave me my odd number. My eyes, I only had an even number, even with that half one, and it was really setting this picture off for me. So by adding this last one off to the side, it balanced itself out for me. Excuse me. I'm not going to add the stamen to the one that's on the bottom. I'm just going to add some Nuvo glue drops, and I'm filling in with the spare pieces that I have. Any areas that are coming off of this card will not be cut off. They are going to stay there. I'm just going to add a center focal point when it comes to, I'm sorry, I used the liquid pearls for the center. I am going to add just a dab of this to the center to add even more sparkle and shine to the center of those stamens of the poinsettias. So, of course, as a final touch, especially when it comes to holiday cards that I do make or holiday projects, we must add our white splatter. This is the P.H. Martin's white non-bleed watercolor, and I am going to add it to both the poinsettia card and also the mistletoe card as well. And again, remember, these are 7 by 7 cards. Okay, so I just figured I would come back just so that you can see these dies. And again, there's so many more than the 2 that I showed, are just absolutely beautiful. And I think what really makes these images and these die cuts come to life is the fact of Susan's techniques, using the tools and so forth. Now, if you already have the Spellbinders tool-in-one, you'll probably just be able to buy the little tiny adapters for the inside individually. So they truly do help to make these images just literally come to life. Now, I started out with Bristol cardstock. You could use white cardstock. And if you use your cardstock, you could still use your distress inks to color them. You could use your alcohol markers. You could use your watercolors. So you have many possibilities. If you want to use solid cardstock, you certainly can on these as well. The possibilities with creating these is absolutely endless. They are extremely dimensional. I mean, you can see just when I turn that off to the side how far that comes. I would not recommend mailing these. You would have to put a lot of, double-sided foam tape underneath these images. But again, when I just turn that to the side, it is literally coming up off that page about 1 inch to 3/4 of an inch. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And I noticed as I was putting this together, especially these, when they would fall on my mat, it actually sounded like leaves in the winter, in the fall. They crinkled and everything else. So absolutely amazing. When it comes to this, I used my stickles for the inside. I used my liquid pearls. If you have Nouveau drops, you could use those as well. Again, have fun with this. These are some beautiful dies. And again, I said it before, the possibilities are absolutely endless. But all of the products that I used will be listed down below in the video description. I will also find the links to Susan's videos as she puts together her creations herself. And boy, she shows some great techniques. That with the glossy accents for the holly was ingenious. It really does look like holly. So I will find those and link those down below. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave those down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I know this was a long video. I do apologize, but as you can see, these are many steps and this took the course of over 2 days because we had to let some of this stuff dry before we started working with it. But as always, I do hope you enjoy it. I hope I gave you some tips and tricks and got you interested into die cutting and the beautiful items that you can create. Everyone, continue to enjoy your day. Continue to smile as we continue through our journey, but most of all, stay safe as we do continue. But always remember what truly is important for me. Always be creative. Till the next video, guys. Take care.